Hello, welcome to Wellness Wednesday and the Chronically Driven radio show and podcast. I'm Sandra Sova, coming to you here once again on the CHLY airwaves in Nanaimo, British Columbia, and on the Chronically Driven podcast and YouTube channel. I have an important episode to share with you today. This will be the first show that I've produced that comes with an advisory for listeners on the sensitive and mature nature of the subject matter. This is not an episode for young ears, so if you have children with you, please be advised. Also, a trigger warning on the topic that we will be discussing today, and that is trafficking. I believe that it's important for us to have discussions that bring awareness to issues in our world. And the one that we are addressing today is definitely a global issue. And it's one that's often swept under the rug due to stigma or the uncomfortable nature of thinking or talking about sex trafficking. Don't worry, what we've got to share with you today is actually so motivating and inspiring, and it's introducing a model of care that could change the way we support other marginalized communities. I'm going to be speaking with the director of a nonprofit that works with coaching, mentoring, and empowering women who have gotten out of the world of sex trafficking. Through programs that include professional and personal development, education, and guidance, they help survivors find what truly lights them up and help them gain access to entrepreneurial opportunities. We will also hear the powerful story from a survivor of trafficking who is now a motivational speaker, coach, mentor, role model, author, and healer for others to help them release the stigma from being trafficked and support them to live an empowered, thriving life. I'm so glad you're here. This is Chronically Driven. Joining me now are Cynthia Lovely and Monica Griffin, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting when I became aware of their involvement and work with the nonprofit organization Shyne Sandiego. Cynthia is the president and executive director at Shyne, which does amazing work with survivors of trafficking, and I can't wait for you to hear about it. Monica is a life coach, a motivational keynote speaker, a spiritual healer, and someone who herself was trafficked and is now supporting so many others to shift the stigma. It's pretty powerful stuff. Welcome, both of you ladies, to Chronically Driven.
Thank you, Sandra, for having us. I really am excited to have this conversation and such a warm introduction. I appreciate it. Where do you want to start?
I think we need to bring some context to the conversation. I know you had shared with me just some of the stats of the programs that Shyne takes care of, and also the report from the United Nations on trafficking for the year of 2020. It's a global situation that is worth talking about. It is not new. What I was surprised at learning is how much I thought that more of the trafficking would be coming from individual situations, sort of like a more one-on-one on the street. But what I'd like you to share is where, like, this is, it's big business.
Yes. Unfortunately, it is the second largest illicit, illegal business in the world, right? Just under drug trafficking, human trafficking, and then weapons. And it's a very lucrative business that is very well organized by, people who, when we think about it, we kind of have this image, I think Monica could probably speak to as well, that's not helpful, which is, we think of trafficking, we think of taken, or we think of, the images that were shown in the media of like the high heel stilettos and the torn pantyhose out on the street. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that's not always what it looks like. Monica, do you want to share a little bit about like what trafficking actually looks like?
Trafficking is unique for each individual. A survivor is, just like a fingerprint, every story, every traumatic experience is unique in its own way. And we all feel differently. And trafficking has so many different genres. We have trafficking in labor. We have trafficking in the entertainment. We have trafficking that is the streets. We have trafficking by your race, by your color, by where you live, by where you've come from, by how you present yourself, in the sense of recognizing those who are trafficked because they stand up saying that they're part of the LGBTQT plus. They get targeted, right? Same goes in the entertainment business. For myself personally, I was trafficked while I was in the spotlight. So no one knew what my body was going through behind the camera, behind the curtain. And I had to give this elaborate illusion of, oh, I'm sexy. Oh, this is me. Oh, I know you like me. Oh, this fan base illusion of this reality that wasn't mine, that was completely controlled and completely imprisoned. And as a survivor myself, first and foremost, I want to recognize that everyone's story is going to be unique. And that when you have the strength to tell your story, know that your fingerprint is added to the book of fingerprints of stories that bring advocacy, awareness, and education on such a sensitive topic. And for myself personally, my story brings a lot of truth behind what happens in the modeling industry. What happens when you're told what to eat, how to dress, when you're going to bed, when you're waking up, when you can shower, who you're having sex with, what parties you're going to, what alcoholic beverages you will only drink and not drink anything else, even down to what drugs you're going to take because it's cool and it's part of your illusion of your reality. That's what I came from. I came from building this reality of illusion for social media, for the magazines, for fashion, for risque and sexual entertainment. And when I got out because my body actually gave out. Not because I actually knew I was in it or that I was getting out, but my body gave out. And I was hospitalized because my body was worn out. I went 5 years of having multiple sexual partners. And what I mean by that is I was having sex 3 to 4 or 5 times a day, and that didn't even include who would have been my boyfriend. Those are strangers and individuals in the entertainment business that would take advantage of me, whether they were on set or take me out to a fancy dinner or lunch or to a club. They would take advantage of me because I didn't know that I could say no, right? I thought, I'm now controlled. This is just who I am. I'm a businesswoman, and my businesswoman self is a model, is this sense of self. This is who I am. I have to deal with it. This is my job. And all this was going on, and the boys I would date had no idea. So I would go home and act like a girlfriend, like I've just had a busy day in the spotlight, doing this, doing that. And I'm realizing that in the dressing room or in the car or in the bathroom or in the club, I was also being sexually abused, harassed, and taken advantage of. And I just thought it was part of the job. And you're just like, oh, I'm that sexual being. That's just me.
Whatever content is being produced, whether it's images, videos, or, magazines, that you're being presented, like you said, as this model, but you're actually just a product.
Yeah.
You're actually just a product, and you're not being valued or treated well. You're being actually very much manipulated and abused.
Yes. And you don't think that way when you're in the industry, though. The entire time you're brainwashed that as a full-time model, as you're part of these glamorous magazines and sex-driven magazines, that is your job, and you're proud of it, and you are just a sex icon of that, and you should be proud of it. And it's almost like it's drilled into your brain that that's just who you are, that your body is not yours, for one, that you are the product, and that you should be proud that men and women want to, right, and be, and that you are that person for them, right? You don't think outside of that at that time, because you're in this space of, you're in a space where you know you are the product, but you are proud of being the product, and the product is being given and you're getting applauded back. So it's as though like you are the performer at all times, you are on all the time, yet you don't know when to turn off anymore, because you've now driven yourself to be this performer and on all the time. You don't know anything else. And it did take getting hospitalized, thinking I was actually having a heart attack. I thought I was having a heart attack, being hospitalized and learning my body was giving out from the inside out. My appendix bursted. I had issues with my gallbladder. I had stomach ulcers. I had ovarian cyst, all at the same time. My body was giving out. And if I waited any longer, because I did try to wait long enough. I was like, oh, I can get through this pain. It'll be fine. I'll be fine. If I kept waiting, I would not be here talking to you right now. I would not. My body would have given out because it was tired. It was tired from the inside out, because what was I doing to it? Not treating it well. I wasn't giving it the right nutrition. I was allowing to be touched, feel, and sexually abused on a daily basis.
What I'd like to say is like your vulnerability and your bravery right now is incredible. And there's a few things that you're speaking to that I just think would be really important for people to understand. First is that predation thrives on secrecy.
Yes.
So what she's saying is she didn't have a safe place or a safe person to tell that these things were happening. And I think that that is something that we hear across the board with victims of intimate partner abuse and violence, with rape, and with trafficking. There's a shame that comes with it, that she felt she didn't have anyone, even the people that were close to her who loved her, that would understand what was happening. And there's this sort of like split. So there's a body detachment. So in the holistic realm, somebody has to actually then detach from their physical being, right? So that is where I've seen Monica heal in the last 5 years and integrate and reintegrate. There's that healing process I'm sure we'll talk about, but we see that oftentimes with all victims of violence. There's a dissociative pattern of their physical being separate from themselves. And then the third piece that she really spoke to is there's a lure. The lure and the vulnerability is coming from the need for fame, fortune, attention, love, money, right? And how often are we seeing that portrayed to us as success? So I think we need to get really clear as a society about what success really is, and as women, how valuable our bodies truly are, because this industry would not thrive if we knew how truly priceless we are. If we looked at exploitation, the commercial sexual exploitation of people, because it does, as Monica said, span all different backgrounds and nationalities and wealth demographics. It is not, it does not discriminate in that realm. That if that were a building that we were trying to dismantle, which we are, we would need to understand the multitude of ways that people are lured into it. Some of the ones that we think of pretty quickly, right, would be gangs. We always see the pimping and pandering. They like put that at the top. You would think of homelessness and drug addiction, because people who are food and housing insecure need to earn money, and that might be what they're using as a survival way to feed their children, you know, which also I think helps people to start to understand and have some sensitivity around this this issue. That there is also, unfortunately, the befriending. So there's a lot of people who will act as a boyfriend or a girlfriend, just a friend. I've heard stories of the tactics of traffickers are highly complex. And so college students can be lured in as well. And I know many women that are very well educated that have become victims of a trafficker's manipulation. There is somebody who has a mental disability who's not able to make full faculty decisions and is a prime candidate for exploitation because they're not going to really know how to access resources. And if they do get saved, will they know the dates and times of things that happened? Will they be able to recount the exact abuse, right? So they can be prime suspects as well. And then, of course, she also spoke about like the porn industry, strip clubs. I think those are some places that maybe people go into that career without that intention, but see very quickly that in order to make the extra money that they're going to do some things that they may not have done. An interesting story is so here in San Diego, when somebody is arrested for solicitation, they get the opportunity to go to a class that helps them to reduce their charges. And so I would go to those classes and sit in those rooms with the women. And I met one woman, she looked at me, she said, "You don't look like you belong here." And I was like, well, I'm 5 years out of an intimate partner violence situation, right? So there's very similar characteristics as well between traffickers of human trafficking and exploitation and domestic violence. It's a lot of the same psychological control. But she was an individual who shared with me, like, she was a nurse who got a drug problem. She got caught using the pills and taking pills from work. She lost her license. She went to work at a massage location. And, when she was caught for solicitation, it was because she was, doing a happy ending, right, to an undercover agent. Now, here's a person who's drug addicted, who's intelligent, who obviously went to school for a long time. So, like, we don't talk about that very often. We don't talk about, and so that's, I think, where, the education and the growth and the opportunity that Shyne sees in the women who are coming out of the life is that they're very skilled and talented, as you can see with Monica and all that she's been able to achieve in a short amount of time, that there's a resilience. Some superpowers that we like to focus on as well, which would be intuition. I think intuition is every survivor's superpower.
That's something that really, really struck me. And it was something that you said, Monica, about one of those superpowers of being able, that intuition and being able to read the room. Can you kind of describe that?
Yes. And, talking about my story, I sometimes get a little too excited. So first off, I would say, like, yes, I was getting excited for my detail to express that vulnerability because I'm at a place to do so. But I got here because it took 5 years, like Cynthia said, in healing to get to a place where I can be here right now. And I would say some amazing superpowers that every woman who's a survivor can come out of this to say is, one, we can read the room. Two, we can read red flags, a gaslighting situation, a narcissistic behavior, pretty much before anybody else can. But also what we have learned in our superpowers as well is recognizing we don't take the BS anymore. We've gotten to a place where it's like, no, we are warriors now. Like we went through so much, no matter it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, we went through so much and we're told what to do, how to do, when to do it. We're not taking that type of control anymore. And I think that's such an amazing superpower that we don't give ourselves credit for enough. We don't celebrate enough in self. Is like, we've gotten to a place where we can read between the lines, that we can read the room, that we can read the energies and recognize in our own selves when our boundaries need to go up, when our walls need to be up to give ourselves that space. And that's something I hope working with Shyne has taught me in the healing and transition and empowering process, that not only am I worthy, but that I can shine and be the best individual that I can be by allowing myself to celebrate little successes, as small as recognizing my superpower, as recognizing when it's okay to put those boundaries up, when it's okay to isolate and be in self. Cynthia and Shyne has been such an amazing support system for myself personally, and recognizing my purpose and recognizing my holistic journey and recognizing that I'm okay and proud to say I'm a survivor.
Absolutely.
And I shouldn't be shunned for that. I shouldn't be told differently.
That's
One
right.
of Monica's superpowers, actually, as well, she leads a Mindfulness Monday group, and she's trauma informed. You hear that a lot in social services right now. Trauma informed this,
Right.
trauma informed that. We have to teach trauma informed. Well, you know, you don't have to teach trauma informed to somebody who's had the trauma. So I'm laughing, but it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know if she recognizes, like, when she and speaks to a group of her peers, she naturally knows the verbiage, the language, the body language, how to just move that room. And those are done on Zoom, which I think is hard too, the disconnect with the video. She also, it's just like the words that she chooses and how she chooses them. She's already trauma informed. We don't have to teach her that.
What I'm sort of inspired and getting excited about is now your legacy, because you are bursting through that stigma. You've allowed yourself to heal. You now will be passing that on to others in your life, to your relationships, to understand you're a mother.
And
And
the stigma for me personally is one of the most important pieces as a survivor, coming out and speaking as a motivational speaker, as someone I hope to influence other women to empower each other, to support each other, stop trying to add entitlements and jealousy, but really just hold each other's hands and be like, yes, girl, yes, queen, let's do this. In that time, though, I've also learned the stigma is strong. I can't tell you how often when I say I'm a survivor, if I'm reading the room, then I know I can introduce myself as a survivor entrepreneur, as a healer, as a life coach, and someone says, oh, well, why'd you not get out sooner? Oh, how does your daughter feel about this? Does she know? Or one of my favorites is them considering that with me saying that I'm a survivor, they've already assumed that I'm trying to play victim. And I'm not. No, I'm a survivor. Guess what? My mind and my whole body survived what seemed to be the pits of hell, and I'm here today. That is amazing. I am so proud of myself and my body and who I am, to a place where I'm celebrating the word survivor in the most positive, uplifting, motivational way I possibly can, and hopes other women can get to that place too and recognize I'm a survivor. My body went through hell, and I am still here standing and shining bright. And that's
beautiful. I mean, and that having that pride, being able to stand up in front of a group and identify yourself as a survivor, and to push back and not stand for that stigma. Monica, did you first have to work through that stigma from your own self?
Oh, 100%. This did not happen overnight. It took 5 years, and actually just recently was my last therapy appointment with my therapist I've been with for 5 years. She's been on this journey, and that may seem small to some, but to go through my last therapy appointment, to be told by my therapist, the hard work has paid off. It's time to live. You have now found your purpose. You have now found your space, was as though you just gave me my degree and I just graduated. And I just graduated from school. I graduated into myself. And it was the most empowering moment. But to get there took a lot of hard work. And then one of the hardest, most difficult obstacles you will go through when you're going through your healing is forgiving yourself. Is forgiving yourself for what you went through. It's forgiving those who abused you. Yes, that's what I'm saying. The men and women who put me through trafficking, who sexually abused me almost on a daily basis, I forgave them. And in my own journaling, I forgave them and wished them a better life. And at the same time, I forgave my body. I forgave my body. I said, it's okay. But look what you were still able to do. All the trauma you went through, and you were still able to be a mother, to hold a baby for 9 months and give life. Forgive your body, because it already forgave yourself simply by giving you this miracle of a child and giving you this chance to not only be a role model to survivors, but my number one role model that I hope to be for is my daughter. She is my inspiration, my motivation, my miracle, my rock. She is the reason I'm here today. She's the reason I started my journey to heal. It was 5 years ago when I was pregnant, when I learned I was pregnant. And going through that and pushing myself through triggers, traumas, my own forgiveness, and getting to a place of comfort and strength and understanding and openness has been a beautiful journey. But it's also, please recognize when I say all this and you're listening to this right now, and I hope this is touching your heart, that as you heal and you find your boundaries and you find your shine, that it's okay to have a different routine than what you're used to. And what I mean by that, it's okay that you used to maybe like crime movies and like those entertainment. And now you're like, no, I don't want that anymore. I like quietness. I like my book. Don't allow the bullies to poke at you because you no longer do things that were convenient for them or comfortable for them to do with you, whether it's a form of entertainment or a form in your routine. Be okay to be like, no, I'm getting to my higher self. And with my higher self is a whole new being, is a whole new routine, is a whole new self from the inside out. And that can include the tiniest details of what your routine could have been in your own personal entertainment at home, to what you eat, right? To how you dress, to how you wear your hair. You're all part of the healing at the same time, because you're getting to your higher self where you can look yourself in the mirror and be like, aha, I see you. I see you. How amazing is this? And so getting back into that cycle of recognizing when someone says you're a survivor, be proud of them. Don't put that stigma. Don't push them down, because you know, we do that on all aspects. I mean, doctors, for example, how often does someone say they're a doctor and you immediately assume that they work for a hospital or a medical? And for all we know, they could be a doctor in computer science. They could be a doctor in engineering. They could be a professor. They may not have never touched or seen blood, right? But we immediately go to that. We immediately think, oh, you can fix me. You can heal me. Same with us. As someone say, I'm a survivor of trafficking. Oh, like Taken? Oh, I've seen that movie. No. Come at it in a different angle. I'm a survivor of trafficking. Wow, what a journey. Tell me, what is your story? I'm proud of you. That's amazing. Show it as though you would have that same amazement if that same person said, I'm a doctor or a lawyer.
Or you should get the same applause and recognition when you say you're a survivor of trafficking as I do when I say I am a breast cancer survivor of 8 years. People think that's amazing. No one puts me down. No one should. What about this? What it would? No, kind of like, come on. Like you're a damn it, you're a survivor, and that is something to be proud of. And that's when you touched on your higher self and the spirituality and the whole holistic things. And you mentioned that you were really appreciative of a lot of the programs that Shyne puts on. So let's talk about that. Cynthia, one of the things I would like you to walk our listeners through is sort of the current model of what is supports given for people that after and also what struck me is this is sort of like a new way of approaching social services. And it sounds like what, Monica, you have found through Shyne, which wasn't through the standard whatever government or healthcare services. This was a unique program, and you've obviously not only embraced it, it's become now that's something that helps identify with something you take pride in what you do. So let's talk a little bit about the current model and what we can do for change.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you for that lead in, Sandra. And I think, there's a couple of things that set Shyne Sandiego apart. And it comes from my 20 plus years of experience as a nonprofit startup specialist, working with visionaries who were innovating new program design. So I think I shared with you pre-interview that we were bringing things into the social service realm like Watsu, which is aquatic bodywork for veterans. Like that's the most dramatic I can think of, but Reiki, Tai Chi, Qigong, nutrition, all of the programs that I was designing and a part of for 20 years really had an innovative approach. And so I oftentimes look at social services as, they're going to overlay the same solutions onto different social issues. So we can look at any of them. So they're doing this. The same thing will happen with human trafficking. As more people become aware of it, they're going to provide housing resources, food resources, clothing resources, job placement resources.
A lot of what is going on, like for the homeless. The homeless is a big issue. I know both in both of our communities here in Nanaimo and everywhere. So this is the same sort of model for what they feel is.
Yeah, and what's innovative for homelessness is I believe in Utah, and I would have to go do the research if that's the exact state, but they solved homelessness. And you know how? They put people in, I don't know, apartments. Like, brilliant. Where you can provide services because now people aren't transient. And so you can then provide them with the resources and they're in a stable living environment that actually long-term, I think was showing that, they had better mental health, they were taking their meds, they were seeing counselors, they were getting jobs, like all of these amazing things happened. So thinking about that, so Shyne is a responsive program. We are an entrepreneurial small business development program, which I think was shocking to people at first because of the stigma, which Monica's done such a great job of describing. When I was telling people I'm going to teach entrepreneurship to survivors, they were like, "You're crazy. These women don't exist. They're too broken, too traumatized." So I am happy to say that 3 years later, we're in our second cohort of a business incubator that runs for 9 months. The women in November will be ready to pitch their ideas to investors for startup funds for their businesses. And there are a wide range of nonprofits and for-profits. So we've got coaching companies and tote bags and beauty supply products and whatever their passion is. That's what we're here to support them and guide them along that entrepreneurial journey. The byproduct of that is a community of support where survivors are given the opportunity to lead. Monica's a great example of leadership. She steps into her passionate role of coaching and positivity and affirmations, and she brings that to a group of her peers. So there's an opportunity within, the Shyne, space for each woman who has a passion to lead. And I think that's another important thing is when we talk about leadership and we teach leadership, we have to give opportunities for people to actually do those things. And so it's through that experiential learning that an individual is able to identify for themselves where their pain points are, where they need growth and opportunity, where they need coaching and support. So we provide coaching as well. So there's a business coaching that they can access weekly for their businesses, marketing coaching, wellness coaching. So different volunteers in the community give their time to teach the classes and to be these mentors and coaches that are probably needed for a short amount of time. But you can imagine, launching a business and not knowing how to do the marketing piece, you're going to need some specialized support and training. So that's a big component as well. And then I would just hone in on responsive. So I don't set the program curriculum ahead of time. With each new cohort, I ask them, what do you want to learn? And I think that's where we could do a better job in social services. We oftentimes show up and say, we have the solution, or we want to be the ones that have the solution. And we want to have the proven model that everybody's going to use. And so you can start to see the power structure in that, and then sort of the breakdown that you might be seeing in your community amongst organizations that become more competitive than collaborative. So it's a really collaborative approach of, even with other organizations, I don't know what they need. I don't know how Shyne can support them, but I am here and willing to do so. So be curious. Ask the question, what do people actually need? And so what might surprise you is when I started Shyne, I surveyed 30 survivors and asked them a lot of questions about business services. Nobody chose resume writing and interview skills. Not one person. Everybody chose boss lady shit.
Yeah.
They wanted to know how to set up their LinkedIn, their YouTube, get their headshots done. Nobody. So you can see as a social agency going, I'm going to do all of this, job play. No, it's ask.
Yeah.
And then it might change over time. So we have to evolve with the women that we're serving. And as we grow, increase our services and capacity to meet their wisdom, because they're growing and their, businesses are growing and they need different things along the way.
I love the entrepreneurial side of this, and just like it really landed for me when you were speaking, Cynthia, and you said people were like, "Why are you doing this? These women are way too damaged and broken." Like, oh my goodness, no.
Well, tell me I can't do something, and this is what happens.
Yeah.
But also, there was, I mean, this is a spiritual show, right? Mm-hmm. So you have people that are tapped into the ethers. Okay. So this was a spiritual awakening for me. This wasn't something that I set out and said, oh, it's a great idea to work with human trafficking. It chose me.
Yes.
I was an open vessel to receive that message, and I still shut it down. I went through the whole, somebody else has to be doing it. I'm probably not the one. I should go find somebody else. I did all of that because oftentimes, for me, I can only speak for me. It's this big thing in front of you and everything's pointing towards it. And we're still really? No, I'm too whatever, not worthy, not good enough, not smart enough, not whatever it is. And so I had to get past my own stuff. And I would literally sit at night and I could hear the victims calling my name. And I would talk with them and say, we're coming. Mine's coming. It always feels like it's kind of not fast enough. But I knew that I didn't have the answer to this complex adaptive issue, as is homelessness, as is drug addiction, as is mental illness, and all of the intersectionality. I don't have the answer, and I can wholeheartedly kind of believe that the only people who do are the ones who have actually lived it and gotten themselves out of it, that have healed, that have gone from homelessness to home, that have gone from addiction to recovery, that have gone from trafficking to survivor to thriver to, I call them advisors, that. Those are the individuals that I choose to support through Shyne Sandiego, because I believe that they have the answers.
And it's Cynthia's Shyne is not only home for me, but when Shyne found me, I was already in a place as a public speaker, as an advocate for trafficking, and really pushing education and knowledge on this topic, on my own experiences, but also wanting to push the education on the genres of trafficking is so important. But Shyne did something different. They saw that light in me. They saw that spark in me. Cynthia saw that spark in me. And she said, okay, you're doing all this public speaking, but where do you want to be? And it really Dawn was like, oh, I'm right where I need to be. I'm a public speaker. No. Where do you want to be? And I was like, I want to touch lives of other survivors. I want to be a listening ear. I want to be their compassionate sister that understands and will hold their hand through their fears, through their triggers, through their traumas, and push them through transitions. And it was in that time that I went from marketing consultant, public speaker, to life coach, to in 3 years' time, now I'm a spiritual healer and finding my purpose of recognizing where I'm supposed to be. But it is because of Shyne I am here today too, because Cynthia said, okay, you want to reach out to other survivors? Let's create a day. Mindfulness Mondays, which started, and we did over a year, back to back, week by week, where I spoke every Monday. And the purpose of Mindfulness Mondays isn't for just the affirmations and loving yourself and understanding self-care and self-love. It's also building trust with other women again, which, believe it or not, is one of the hardest things to do as a survivor, is trusting other women.
Interesting.
And building that relationship, building that sisterhood, building this support, this community where other women, at the end of my 1 hour Mindfulness Mondays, I ask every woman, give a compliment to another woman on here right now. From your heart. Doesn't matter if someone has pulled on you today from their stories, from their experiences from this past week, give them their compliment. Because guess what? As we start to give those compliments back, we're in a place to, over time, we'll start to recognize, to receive it and bring it back to self, which is part of that transition, which is part of that healing, which is part of the entrepreneurship of building your own team and building your own business and recognizing you can trust individuals in your community. And Shyne is that community of trust, as well as a community of empowerment. Mm-hmm. And building that is just so important. I want to thank Cynthia for not only helping me in my own personal purpose, but she helps so many beautiful survivors on their journeys and recognizing their needs on how to help them thrive, not just survive, but really thrive and be in the place of empowerment and shine as bright as they can be. Because she can see the light is on, but she's twisting the bulb to make sure it shines to make sure each individual is shining as bright as possible.
Thank you, Monica. That was really sweet. I love how she weaves Shyne into there.
I know. So well done.
It was, yeah, well, that's probably another story about how I got the name Shyne. But, I should be on one of those podcasts about business startup and the ups and downs, right? Because let's be honest, the entrepreneurial journey is not for everybody.
Right.
And nor does Shyne believe everybody's going to start their own business. But what I do know is that when we open up the opportunity for education and we remove barriers to knowledge, that people can find their own destiny. And when we believe in other people's intuitive guidance system, when we look at their strengths, when we, look at somebody and we say, oh, here's all the ways you need to be fixed and my service fixes you, that's a very different approach than what Shyne does. We're like, okay, what's working well? What could you teach a class on today? What are the strengths that you're bringing? What are you interested in learning, right? And so people show up. And I find that across the board in the programs that I've been honored to be a part of, that we had a high level of retention because of that positive reinforcement and the access to healing modalities and opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise be given because we don't think they're smart enough, or we don't think they're ready, or maybe they shouldn't. So everybody at Shyne, I'm like, give it to them. Give them the top level, PhD class level, trust they're going to get it. And if they don't, we have a coach to help them along. And it's just been amazing.
For me, where everything clicks in that holistic feeling really good in your body, in your world, in it's that interconnection. And when we're doing things that don't fulfill us, when we're being drawn into things that are even just the opposite of but are damaging and hurtful, when we can navigate through that and come in and do, and like Monica, you said, it took five years, you've did like a lot of work, but find out that important question that Cynthia asked you, what do you want? Yeah. What drives you? What do we want to do? And when we do that as individuals, that's when we can change the world.
And imagine if programs did that.
Yeah.
In their needs assessment, they added in, what's your passion?
Yeah.
What makes you happy? Yeah. What kind of food do you like? It's little things.
It's the self-worth and the self-love component of, and talk about having to do a lot of work in that area for people that have been marginalized through trafficking situations. So providing those holistic programs, providing to get to tap into to really valuing yourself. And like, you were saying, when you look in the mirror and you love who's looking back at you. That's healing. And to get to that place is really powerful. Monica, I wonder if you could, a variety of people are going to be listening to this recording. Do you have any messages that you'd like to share to some people that might be currently struggling?
Healing takes time. A spiritual awakening is not unicorns and butterflies all the time. It is groundbreaking. It's taking that jackhammer to the concrete and breaking open until you get to the ground again. And once you get to the soil, what happens when we start watering that soil and nurturing that soil? Well, the grass starts to grow again. And then we're in our meadow. We're in the meadow for the first time. And I feel like that's such a beautiful way of thinking of your spiritual awakening, is you're getting down from the concrete, you're releasing it all, you're cleaning it out to a place where you're in your meadow, where you're in your safe space. The holistic part is extremely important. Healing doesn't happen overnight, doesn't happen in 6 months. It takes time, but it also takes work and effort on your part as much as possible. It takes the effort of journaling. It takes the effort of gratitude. It takes the effort of affirmation. It takes the effort of change. It takes the effort of isolation. It takes the effort of letting go toxic people. It takes the effort of showing people your boundaries. And that's so crucial, showing people your boundaries. It takes the effort of forgiveness. As we take those efforts and we really put forth the work, that's when things to really start to blossom for you. And you start to see the universe in such a beautiful, colorful way that you may have never seen before. And that's so crucial. One question I have been asked several times, because I state I have CPSD, is, well, what meds do you take? I don't take anything. I keep up with my routine. I put the work in daily, holistically, so that I can be here with you today and with Cynthia today, but also be present every single day. But that doesn't happen just because I get up and take a pill and drink my coffee and go off to work. It happens because I get up in the morning and I journal, and I do my manifestations, and I do my affirmations, and I take time to listen here, to celebrate here, my heart and my soul, to recognize I'm no longer taking my soul out of my body anymore. And that soul is in me at all times, and I need to celebrate it every day. And for the survivors or anyone listening right now who are in that healing journey, or just feeling exhausted because they don't feel like they're getting anywhere, that's when you know you're getting somewhere. When you're feeling exhausted, when you're feeling overworked, when you're feeling like, where am I getting? I'm so tired. I want to just cry all the time. Well, guess what? Cry all the time. Get it out. Because guess what? You're getting the work done. And the more you let those emotions out, you let those insecurities out, you let that anger out and push yourself for that forgiveness, the more you're going to see how beautiful your life really is, from the tiniest little butterfly to the hawk flying in the air to the wind blowing in your hair. However that may be for you, keep going, because you're getting somewhere. You are getting somewhere. Don't give up on yourself. And if it's as small as stating I am enough, or my favorite thing to say almost every morning now is I am Monica Griffin. That is so strong for me. When you say I am and put your full name right after it, feel that power, because we're all unique, just like our fingerprints. And our fingerprints are our story. And if you're at a place where you want to start telling your story, believe your name first. Believe your name first, your full name, and see the power behind that.
Cynthia, back to you. I was wondering if you had anything that you wanted to share with regards to some of the programs that Shyne does offer, and what is accessible, and for who is it for, and
Thank you for the question. And I'm like, so growing forward as we continue to grow our garden and new things are emerging, I think there's some key ways for people to get involved. First off, they're a survivor. They're in a trafficking situation right now. There are ways to get out. There are safe ways to get out, and I hope that we can add the text be free. If you just text that, then you can get access to resources immediately. Shyne works with individuals that are typically 3 to 10 years out of the life, so they have a little bit more stability and ability to be in a classroom and in a community. They've just got a foundation built. So maybe they've gone through a program, maybe they haven't. But that is not to say that we don't work with women who are still in the life, as long as they're in a safe environment. So we screen for that. They can access us. We're using Mighty Networks for the Survivor Business Network. So if you go to Mighty Networks and you type in Survivor Business Network, you'll see the S with the star, and that's Shyne. And then Shyne Sandiego is spelled with a Y. So SHYNE. And everything should pretty much pop up, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course, my last name is Lovely, Luvlee, and Google's so great, right? Like,
well, and we'll also I'll put any of the links and the contacts in the show notes for the podcast and for the YouTube and stuff. And so yeah, because it's been I know I'm so encouraged and inspired by hearing these this work that's going on. And Monica, you're fire, girl. You should be so proud of the personal journey that you've been on, and that you're here now, sharing that for others to heal from as well. I really, really respect you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here with you all today. It means the world to me. Even if I make 1% of a difference, bringing education, knowledge, and healing, I feel like I do my work 100%.
Well, I think it's important for Monica to share how to find hers too. So I know you'll add those, but
yes, please.
Most Style, and she's also got a book out on Amazon. So one of the core components of the work that we do is the economic empowerment piece, right? So access to financial support, whether it's products and services that survivor business owners have. And so we're building out the Survivor Business Network for that purpose. So that is like exciting for me, because it'll be a place where community members like yourself or your listeners say they want to support this cause. They'll have a place to go to purchase those products and buy those services and contract with those consultants and know that they're supporting survivors, right? Because that's really going to be the solution piece, is the wealth creation in our communities so that we can create more opportunities for others. That's the biggest takeaway for me. And I think what I've been learning along the way is how can we do that better? You know, how can we give people equity, access to wealth? I'm looking for anyone that works in the financial services that's willing to have these conversations to help educate us about ways that people can access, you know, microloans and business loans and those things, because part of where we started was the stigma. And because of the stigma and because of the barriers that happen along the way of trafficking, and the records that some of the victims get, although we have laws here that help with expungement, it can be very hard to get a job, to get a place to stay, to get, you know, a business going. So I'm always looking for those resources as well. And so I just wanted to put that out there, because I know that I have a lot to learn from you and your community as well. And I just want to thank you for letting me share that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have a book on Amazon. It's a collaboration piece with other entrepreneurs, including Jim Britt and Kevin Harrington. It's called Cracking the Rich Code, and it's volume 4 of the series. And I have a chapter in there, and it's a little teaser. I have a book that was supposed to come out later this year, but due to 2020, it will be coming out in 2022. And it's called F It. And it's a memoir, self-help, ideally empowerment, motivational book that it's going to it's going to go through every detail of my 20s, every twist, turn, up and down battle I went through in trafficking and relationships, and pushing out there like what I learned, and that we're all on this journey of learning, right? Learning and healing at all times. We're always evolving and changing. And that book coming out in 2022 will really push the envelope and really bring to light what happens in the entertainment business. And ideally completely take off the curtain of illusion and bring truth behind so many women who are still imprisoned. Because that's key here, is there are still many women imprisoned and under control. And it is important for us to recognize that and put forth the effort and knowledge and awareness that women are still trapped.
I'll definitely want to put those links for the book. I love hearing about the network for survivor businesses. I know that there's a lot of people in some of the different communities that I'm involved in. This is a passion project. This is something that we feel very strongly about. Supporting and ending and bringing awareness to. So make sure you stay in touch with me on those. And Monica, when it's time for that book launch, I think that you and I might want to have to pop on here again and do some celebrating there.
I love that. I would love that. Be so honored. So honored.
Well, that wraps up today's show. I hope you have found it educational and inspirational. To catch the replay or listen to previous episodes, simply search for Chronically Driven wherever you listen to your music and podcasts. I look forward to spending time with you again next time around. And until then, take care. I am wishing you wellness.